Hack the Box has a lab called Baby Interdimensional Internet. This is a part of the web application track. I like this lab because it's a direct hands-on application of a well-known flag about command injection. Let me show you this article very quick. This is from OSWAP. I can't see the date, but it should be a recent one. Basically, it's talking about the command injection technique and give some of the examples. And if I go down on this article here, it talks about this exec function, and it says the environment plays a powerful role in the execution of system commands within programs. Functions like system and exec use the environment of the program that calls them, and therefore attackers have a potential opportunity to influence the behavior of these calls. Well, basically, system and exec, they have a similar functionality. The main difference that I know is that in exec, there's no return. There's no output. In the system, however, there's an output. And if basically my understanding is that these are the functions available based on the environment that you have in. So if the end user, or this malicious actor in this case, has the opportunity to control the arguments inside this function, they can have a foothold. They can gain a foothold in the system through remote command execution. So let's work on this lab and see an application of that technique. So this is the website, the host, the socket given with the port. It's a simple website, just a picture and a number. If I refresh the website, the number changes. So there is a dynamically entered numbers here. What I did first, I went through this GoBuster, and GoBuster is a tool used to detect the hidden directories within this web domain or subdomains. And here I'm using this URL, using some of the well-known directory names and testing them out, so brute forcing here. And we have this debug directory. So let's go to this debug directory and see web application using this famous Python framework Flask. And it is a short set of commands. So I downloaded it on my Visual Studio Code to see it better with the colors. A couple of flags I have to bring to attention. Number one, this lowercase this part of this string module, it's not functioning properly, and I checked it out over the internet. There's another module that I need to import, and ASCII lowercase will work, but in this lab it will not be really important because I won't be executing this code. I will be just using this code to detect the problem, and I will be using Burp Suite for traffic interception and doing the command execution. Well, let's look at the details of the code here. There are 1, 2, 3 functions that I see: calc, GCR, and federation. All right, and here we see that this app is accepting both GET and POST requests, and the root directory, it's bind to the root directory, and return the index HTML. Okay. I did some work on this, so I changed it. So let me remove my edits because I was testing on something before. So this is the original code before. Well, let me do something very quick. Don't save and open up. Okay, that should be the original version of this code in this debug directory. Now, this the red flag that we discussed earlier based on OSWAP's recommendation, this exec command is very important to look at, because if we can control the input here, we can run this command in its Flask environment and have control on the system. So let's look at the recipe here. So recipe is inside this GCR and federation here. So recipe is used in two places. Let's look at this here first. We have the ingredient and recipe. So ingredient is joining the string here. And here you see this choice, the function choice, and choice is choosing random elements. So there's a random process ongoing here. So the output for that function will be a random value. So we don't have control basically. And if you go at the recipe here, same thing. There is rand input, choice, rand input, right? Also rand integer. So in these lines 7 and 18, we have random processes ongoing. But if you look at the lines 20 to 22, there is an if condition here. If we send a post request here, then the ingredient can be obtained from the user, and same as the recipe. And here, check it out. It is a string statement here. So the first anchor is for the ingredient and the second anchor is for the measurements. So we are basically making a long statement here. Let me copy it. Oops. Okay, so let me take this. So let's assume now that we are the users here and we set the ingredient, let's say as QQQ, and for the measurements we typed in a value of 500, right? So all this will now be replaced with a long string. So this recipe will become a string. So these are just user input. And now if we use the, so then after the recipe is set, we are calling the function calc, and we are going to calc here. So that means we are executing the recipe here, which is replaced by a long string. So we are basically doing a concatenation process of the ingredient and recipe, and this can get executed by this exec function. Well, as we discussed, this is a red flag because we can change this here, and we can do different execution for the variables. Let's go to the Burp Suite application and check it out if we can have control on the input for the exec function. Well, my intercept is on and Foxy proxy is running. It's good to go. So I can just take this address and run it, and it will get intercepted. So what I can do then is I can just send it to repeater on Burp Suite, remove the turn off the interception. So I have it in the receiver. So the code originally was giving us a more controlled input on the ingredient and the measurements if we send a post request. So I change it to a post request. All right, and then I enter values for ingredients. It should be ingredient, I guess. Let me check very quick. Go to the debug, see the content here. Okay, ingredient and measurements. All right. So ingredients, we said QQQ, and for the measurements, we can say 500. So if I send this, I won't really get the response I was expecting for, because there's one thing that we need to discuss. That's called the content type here. When you're sending an HTTP request, you need to define the content types. And this is from the Stack Overflow here. So there are a number of options we need to select from. And this is what I will be using. And there's a long discussion about why that can be used, but basically this will be the content type. So basically on this, if we use this hex dep form URL encoded, we are basically sending the data as a big block, as a single string into the HTTP message body, right? And this is not convenient if if you need to upload files, or if you are sending large quantities of binary data, which we don't do it over here. With that content type, I should get my code executed here and telling us that ingredient equals 500. So this is a result of the exec output. Well, that's good. So that gives us the flexibility to change the input and gain foothold on the system through RCE. Okay, now as the next step, let's insert a comment such as this one, which first imports the OS module, and then popen that invokes a shell and execute the shell command ls. So let's try it out. And let me see. Okay, I don't get the response I was looking for. Let me see if I typed it in correctly. Import OS open read. Okay, I just make a quick change on the function, put this eval option, which really executes this whole argument as a string here. And also these backslashes are escape characters for the single and double quotes. So once I have this comment instead of this fixed variable here, I'll get the list of the files in that directory. So I have 3 files: app, a Python file, flag, and templates. So I can now change this ls and make it to include the cat option to see the content of the flag. So I can change it to cat and flag. I think I need to put a plus sign to represent the space. Let's see if it works. Yeah, it works. So this is the flag after this command execution.